Hi everybody. The final Grand Tour of the season is already upon us. My preview is dropping a bit later than expected, yet I wanted the full starting list to be confirmed. This Saturday, August the 23rd, the Vuelta is starting. This year around, the Vuelta starts off in Italy and sticks to northern Spain. Good for a total distance of 3,180 kilometers and roughly 55,000 meters of elevation gain, which is 5,000 meters less climbing than on last year's edition. The organizers indicate the Vuelta to comprise 4 flat stages, 2 flat stages with an uphill finale, 1 hilly stage, 7 medium mountain stages, 5 mountain stages, 1 individual time trial, and 1 team time trial. Not the usual individual time trial to kick off this year's Vuelta, yet a 184k inline stage, offering a chance for the fast man to claim the red jersey, a chance which only occurred once so far this century, back in 2007. This is a perfect opportunity for Pedersen or Philipsen to claim a red jersey. Stage 2 runs over 160k, which are largely flat, yet presenting the riders with an uphill finale, with the final kilometers rising at 5.4% average. The most likely scenarios here are a late breakout or a reduced bunch sprint taken by a punchy rider. Can Kokar surprise here, or will we see Pedersen and Alar hanging on as they did in the opening stages of the Giro? This early on in the Vuelta, I expect there to be much vested interest for teams à la Trek to control stage 3. The finale is uphill, yet the gradients remain under 5%, making this perfect terrain for the versatile sprinters. In my book, this one has Pedersen written all over it. Stage 4 then covers 193k and 3,200 meters of elevation gain, most of it packed in the first half of the stage. Expect a strong breakaway to form here. In my book, it's not excluded for them to make it stick, and when they do, there may well be a rider in there with fast legs. Magnus Sheffield is a name that comes to mind here. Stage 5 then is a flat 21k team time trial, where you can expect a Team Emirates versus Visma Lease bike battle. Stage 6 is the first proper mountain stage of this year's Vuelta, 170k and nearly 3,500 meters of elevation gain, mainly spread out over 2 first category climbs, including the finish climb to Pal. Nearly 10k at 6.4% average. Contador is a former winner here. This year around though, I expect this stage to go to the breakaway, given there's plenty of other and better opportunities for the GC men to make a real difference. One of these stages being stage 7, 187k, with nearly 4,500 meters of climbing. The finish climb to Serler is highly irregular and features multiple sections in the 9% range, as well as some in the double digits. There will be a big GC battle here, while the breakaway also has its chances. Stage 8 should be for the fast man and is one of the better options for the pure sprinters. The first week of racing ends with stage 9, a nearly 200k long stage featuring 3,250 meters of climbing. In my book, also this stage has good chances to go to the breakaway. Names a la Frigo or Soler come to mind here. Week 2 then starts with the 170k stage, good for slightly over 3,000 meters of climbing, with the main feature being the first category 9.4k finish climb, which goes up at slightly over 6% average. It's steeper than that for most of the time, yet flattens out towards the finish, making this another potential breakaway stage. Keep an eye out for riders who've been active in the earlier stages. Stage 11 is a medium mountain stage around Bilbao. In terms of distance and elevation gain, the stage is comparable to stage 10, yet with multiple short climbs throughout the day. The profile is very different. Expect the Pique Bidea to be a decisive feature in this stage, 2k at 9.4% average, cresting with 8.5k to go. If Pogacar were here, I'd call it for the GC, yet without him, I'm expecting another breakaway win here. Pre-race, I'm calling this one for Pidcock. Stage 12 is another medium mountain stage. At 144k, it's a short stage featuring 2 prominent climbs, the Puerta de Alisas, where the breakaway is likely to form, and the Cola de Brenes, 6.6k at 8.3% average, where those hunting for the stage will be looking to make their decisive move. On stage 13 then, it's money time for the GC men, and I don't see anybody but the GC contender taking victory atop the mythical Angliru. 12.3k at 10.7% average at the end of a 204k stage with 4,000 meters of climbing. The Angliru gets preceded by two first category climbs in the 8 to 9% average range, perfect to tire the competition for any team that wants to take an option on the GC. This stage is going to be defining. Former winners on the Angliru in recent history are Contador in 2017, Ucardi in 2020 and Roglic in 2023. The GC fight will continue on stage 14, a 140k short stage with nearly 4,000 meters of elevation gain, finishing atop the Alto della Farrapona, which final 7k are averaging at 8.5%. Pre-race, I don't expect the break to get a large enough lead here, and I'm expecting another GC fight for the win. Former winners here are Rijn Contador and Gaudu. Looking at the profile of stage 15, climbing out of the gate, a strong breakaway will form on this 167k stage, and if it has some riders with roller qualities, I expect them to fight for the win. Stage 16, the start of the final week of this year's Vuelta, is another medium mountain stage, with good chances of going to the breakaway. The profile is too ragged and I just don't see any of the teams controlling this. For reference, this is the same finale as we saw on stage 20 of the 21 Vuelta, a stage won by Champoussin. Also, stage 17 is categorized as a medium mountain stage. This one has a very different profile though. It is a short stage with an easy approach into the very irregular finish climb to Ponferrada. Valverde won here in 2004 and 2006. Bring on Ciccone. On stage 18, the riders get presented a mainly flat non-technical 23k individual time trial. This is one for the pure powerhouses, and Ganna, Koen and Segaard are names that come to mind here. Stage 19 is a straightforward versatile sprint stage. The final kilometers are slightly uphill at 2 to 3%. Which brings us to the final GC stage of this year's Vuelta, 160k and 4,200 meters of climbing, finishing atop the Puerto de Navacerrada, or category 12.5k, including double-digit gradients. And the Vuelta will end with a sprint stage into Madrid. So to summarize, without knowing the actual race situation, we have one individual time trial and one team time trial, 3 sprint stages and 3 more for the versatile sprinters, 2 punchy break stages and 6 mountain break stages, and finally 5 potential GC days, some of which may of course also end up going to the break. Here's an overview of the winners of the final 10 editions, with Primož Roglic remaining the Vuelta king, scoring a hat-trick from 2019 to 2021. While on last year's edition we had 3 former winners lining up, this year around Kuss is the only rider to have taken home the red jersey, back in 2023. Besides him, we also have runners-up Ben O'Connor in last year's edition and Jonas Vingegaard, second to Kuss in 23, along with podium finishers Haig and Ayuso, third in 2022 and fourth in 2023. Some other notable riders are Almeida, Landa, Bernal and Hindley. Here's the betting odds at the time of recording, with Vingegaard as the outright favorite. And then here's the riders to watch in my book. Landa was 8 in last year's Vuelta, and I would not be surprised to see him ride another top 10 in this year's edition. Besides him, keep an eye on Parepintre and Schachmann for the stage hunt. Bernal is the rider to watch on GC for the Ineos Grenadiers, 7th in the Giro earlier this year, where I absolutely love this attacking riding style. Besides him, watch for Ganna and Sheffield in the hunt for stages. Even without Pogačar, UAE is the strongest block at the start here, with Almeida and Ayuso aiming for GC. The bookies rate them equally, yet in my book Almeida is clearly the top dog and will see a unique opportunity here to podium a Grand Tour. He's been raking up top 10s and wins in all of the one-week stage races he started this year. He had to drop out of the Tour. Ayuso has been 3rd in the 22 Vuelta and 4th in the 23 edition, yet hasn't been able to confirm Grand Tour performance. Vingegaard on GC for Visma Lease Bike, who will be able to count on Jorgensen and Kuss when the road points up, while Zangle is the rider to watch in the versatile sprint stages. On GC, I also don't completely rule out Kuss or Jorgensen should Visma Lease Bike opt for guerrilla tactics by getting these riders up the road, in which case they may well sneak into a large break which becomes impossible to control, as Kuss did en route to his Vuelta win in 2023. Then again, that year around, Jonas won the Tour, while he remains empty-handed this year around. I somehow like this Bahrain team, where you can expect Tiberi to ride for GC, Caruso is another rider you can never rule out, fifth in the Giro earlier this year, and Buitrago is always one to consider for the climby breakaway. With Carapaz focusing on the Worlds and not lining up here, I'm not expecting too much from EF, with Mikkels being their best option at success in the versatile sprint stages. Hindley and Pellizzari on GC for Red Bull Bora. Hindley hasn't really confirmed his Grand Tour form this year around, something that can't be said from Pellizzari. Sixth in the Giro earlier this year and carrying his form as proven by a P4 in the Vuelta a Burgos, ahead of Ciccone and Bernal. Also look for Fisher Black in the punchy stages. At Movistar, look for Canal in the punchy stages, and in this field Alar can do some serious damage in the fast stages. He performed extremely well in the Giro, surviving stages amongst the best. As for the mountain stages, who doesn't want to see Castrillo repeating what he did on last year's Vuelta? Even though it must be said we haven't seen much of him yet this year around. Groupama's best shot at success is in the stage hunt here. Look for Fortunato at Astana, fresh of a second place behind Del Toro in the Vuelta a Burgos, and still looking for that elusive Grand Tour top 10 result. Besides, Tejada and Puls are great riders for the climby breakaways. Ben O'Connor rode a solid tour and is definitely top 10 material in this Vuelta. Personally, I also like Eddie Dunbar, yet I have to admit he's been looking a bit off this season. Then, I really like this Trek team as well, who should be in for a few stage wins here. Peders is on fire and will be the man to beat in the sprint and versatile sprint stages. He took 4 wins in the Giro earlier this year and will be looking to repeat that feat, which obviously won't be easy. Besides him, also look for Ciccone in the climby stages and Baggioli in the punchy ones. Van Ude, winner of a stage in the Giro earlier this year, will be looking to repeat his sprint success and is in my book Picnic Postenel's best option at a stage win. At Arkea, Christian Rodriguez will most likely ride for GC, while Biermans will be hunting for stages. Viviani will be looking to mix it up in the sprints for Lotto, while Alex Segaard is a rider to watch for the breakaway and individual time trial. And also Cofidis will be in here for the stage hunt, lining up with Kokar for the versatile sprints and Anjelkovski for the pure sprints. At Premier Tech, I'm interested to see how Riccitello will do. Besides him, watch Frigo in the hilly and the climby breakaways, and Ethan Vernon and Jake Stewart in the fast stages. At Alpecin de Koning, Philipsen was a late addition to their roster, meaning Pedersen won't be granted his sprints for free. Arne Marit in the fast stages is Intermarché's best shot at victory, and at Decathlon AG2R, Felix Gall, fifth in the Tour earlier this year, is obviously the rider to watch on GC, and keep an eye on youngsters Stan omitted. Fagundes for Burgos and Silva for Caja Rural are, in my opinion, the riders with a shot at riding a top 10 place in one of the hilly stages. And finally, at Q36.5, De La Cruz seems to have found back some of his 2020-21 form, where he managed to top 10 the Vuelta. Also look for Pidcock on GC, and Fabio Christe is a rider to watch in the hilly stages. Something which can of course also be said for Pidcock. Personally, I don't know what to really think about Pidcock as a GC rider, yet the opening days of this year's Vuelta present plenty of opportunity for him. Let's see how that works out. Looking at the fast men, here are the 10 to watch in my book. Pedersen at Little Trek, Vernon at Premier Tech, Kokar and Anjelkovski at Cofidis, Zingle at Visma Lease Bike, Marit at Intermarché, Alar at Movistar, Van Ude at Picnic PostNL, Mikkel ZTF, and last but not least, Philipsen at Alpecin. Here's an overview of how these riders have been doing recently. It is very clear from this overview that Pedersen and Alar are the riders to watch, along with Philipsen, who crashed out of the Tour and is not featuring on this overview because there's no real recent results to compare him to the others. In my book, Pedersen remains the outright favorite for the sprinter's jersey. Behind them, Zingle and Anjelkovski are the main fast men to watch in my book. It's always a bit of a gamble as per whom goes for the polka dots, yet in my book there's only one smart pick here, Giulio Ciccone, who indicated in a recent interview that he wants to win stages and the mountains jersey after winning it at the Tour and the Giro. Take note. In terms of stars for this year's Vuelta, Vingegaard is my only 4-star favorite, Almeida gets 3 stars, Ayuso, Bernal, Pellizzari, Gall and O'Connor each get 2 stars, and Tiberi, Fortunato and Landa each get 1 star. As for the podium, I'm calling Vingegaard for the win ahead of Almeida and Bernal. Thanks for watching. Let me know who's your pick in the comments and catch you later today or tomorrow for my thoughts on the opening weekend.